Paulie Fiona. The first thing I thought when I saw her was that she looked identical to her older brother.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us, a place where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter.
And I'm Lee. We are grateful you joined us today. Please note that this is a story of loss and has triggers.
Thanks to our lost parents who are willing to be vulnerable and share their children with us.
If you're listening to this podcast, just know that on our YouTube channel there are pictures and videos that are related to the stories that are being shared.
Subscribe and share it with a friend that might need it and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us. Welcome to Still a Part of Us. We are so pleased to be with Claire today and to talk about her sweet daughter, Paulie, and really get into, I think, some really, really tricky and hard things that happened with her birth. And so grateful that Claire reached out to us. Claire, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me kind of a base to share this with you and with the world, really.
Yeah. We're so happy to be that place. And I also want to give her a huge shout out only because we are recording the day before Mother's Day. And for many lost moms, this is not an easy task to talk about our kids and especially ones that aren't here with us. And so a lot of love to Claire and any mom that is listening today, any dad that might be listening, to just say we see you and we understand how difficult this day could be. So, but thanks again, Claire, for being so kind and brave to be here today.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the time, I've been thinking this week, it's been actually the hardest week since,
Yeah.
and I think I'm really happy that I can do this. It's going to be healing for me, I think, to just create purpose from this experience.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
glad actually to be doing it on like right before Mother's
I
Day. It's
know.
perfect.
Yeah. Nice little tribute also, just a tribute legacy. I think it's good.
Mhm.
Okay, so Claire, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're located, and what your family looks like, especially at the time of Polly's birth, just so that we have an understanding of what your family dynamic is.
Okay, so we're from in Canada. It's
Mm-hmm.
a little small town in Canada, in Ontario. And yeah, we I was actually a city girl originally. I grew up in the city of London, Ontario.
Uh-huh.
And then once I met Kevin, we met at a bar. I knew that if I wanted to be with him, I would probably have to move just because he's a farmer.
Yeah.
And I knew that, like, he was connected to the country life and he was going to be there for his whole life. So I was happy to move out to the country. I love the idea of the country. And right before COVID hit, we bought a little house and yeah, we started our life together. We got married through COVID. It was kind of crazy,
Oh
but
my goodness.
we did it. We got married on his parents' farm. It was a beautiful wedding, and we soon after, like, wanted to get pregnant, and we had our son. And yeah, we before Polly, we were a family of three.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm a preschool educator.
Oh.
There's history behind that too. My mother and my grandmother owned a Montessori school for
Oh yeah.
preschool,
Mm-hmm.
and they owned that, like, for a number of years. I was pretty much born into that, and I came with my mom to her workplace, like, at a very young age.
Yeah.
Um, I have two sisters, so they kind of came with my mom to work as well. And then my mom ended up taking over the business. I really was interested in it. I
Mm-hmm.
worked there since I was 16 for my mom. And when I moved out to Park Hill, we found a little building just down the street from my house, and we
Perfect.
bought it. And we are running a preschool out here too.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so right now I'm actually in the toddler age group with my son, and I'm just working as an ECE there.
Hmm.
And it's been fabulous working with him. And yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about our lives before Paulie.
Yeah. That sounds so fun and idyllic and just beautiful out there. I just how neat is that? And then just to have a very and your husband's a farmer, yes?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I just how cool is that? And no issues transitioning to country life essentially.
No, I always thought, I'd want to live close to my parents.
Yeah.
We're about 45-minute drive away,
Oh, okay.
which isn't that bad. And I find like, living out here, I don't know if this is controversial, but the feels cleaner, the like atmosphere, the small town community, I'm in love with that. And
Yeah.
now my parents kind of want to move out here someday.
Oh,
So it would be fabulous.
yeah, you're
But
like, "Can you do that? That would be great."
yeah, yeah. And I'm really close with my in-laws, especially after this and
Mhm.
everything that we've been through, like COVID and all that too, with the wedding. And so they live just a second away. It's
Yeah.
perfect. So
Oh.
I feel like I kind of made my home out here, and the adjustment was like just totally great.
Yeah, you're like, "It's too nice out here to not just love
Yeah,
it."
exactly.
Oh, that is really it sounds wonderful, like a nice little life that you guys have built. And, what do you guys like to do in your spare time as a family?
So we love going outside. My son is obsessed with, just being available, the tractors and the big like farming machines.
Yeah.
He's like a typical boy's boy. I
Mm.
don't think like he'll ever come out to me and say like you know, I'm a girly girl or whatever because
Yeah.
he's definitely like he's into the dirty, the messy, the crazy typical boy like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, he loves like tractors and things like that. So we're always like at the farm and
Yeah.
riding on the tractors, and any outing that we do is kind of it's bigger for us because we don't normally get to see each other like us three all the time. It's me and my son usually, and
Mhm.
then Kevin's kind of like, he's an amazing husband and amazing dad in the time that he gets with him, but he's super busy,
Yeah.
which is like great. We both have a really, really strong work ethic.
Mhm.
So I'll see him at night times, and like he'll be like working away at something. He's put our son to bed and did the whole bedtime routine since like my son was 8 weeks old.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he literally like from the second he gets home, I'm like, okay, my shift is over.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of like that. But there's so much love as well, right? So any outing that we would do, it's like I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but any outing that we would do, it's like pretty a big event. Like we'll
Yeah.
go somewhere and like, take Donnie there or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna say, like, farming is not an easy like, when it's farming season, I'm pretty sure that's it's more than a full-time position, right? I mean, he's probably out and working a lot.
Hmm.
And,
And yeah. Just to add to that, he does have like he's a carpenter as well.
oh,
So he does like a full-time job, and then he also does the farming. And so that's kind of actually I should have started with that. That's kind of why we don't see each other as a family all the time.
yeah. He is working
Yeah.
hard, holy cow.
Mhm. Yeah.
You are working hard too.
Yeah.
So busy, but then so fun. It sounds like when you get time together, just the 3 of you is really precious and a big deal.
We always have supper together, and that is like just amazing. Not a lot of families can get that.
Yes.
I do. I am so grateful for the time when we do have with the three of us. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, well, so I'm actually a little curious with your son, did you have any difficulty getting pregnant with him? Was that
Mm-hmm.
a
We did, yeah.
Oh,
Um, when we were married, I was kind of like, let's get the show on the road. I've always wanted to have children. I've
yes.
always even as a child, I would carry around babies.
Yeah.
Like that was my thing. I had like this
A little.
raggedy baby,
Hmm.
and my mom had to wash it once a week probably. I was obsessed with them. My best friend and I actually we just carried around our baby dolls at like, I don't even know how old I was, probably like 10 at school, right? So when we got married, I was like, let's do this.
Yeah.
I want to have a family. He felt the same way. So we tried and, cycle after cycle, nothing was happening.
Nothing. Mm.
And then finally we did get pregnant. And I think it was like 3 weeks before we were about to like have our first ultrasound and tell people,
Yeah.
um, I lost the baby
Oh.
miscarriage. And I was like, whoa, like it was horrible.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, nothing comparison to what I feel now in my mind, but it really was a loss to me as well.
Yes. It is a
And
loss. I
hey,
it is so hard because then you realize it's not guaranteed after a certain point. Like even
yeah.
just yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
And so we tried again. 2 months later, we were pregnant with my son.
Okay.
So we didn't necessarily give up hope that we
Yeah.
could and like a pregnancy would sustain. But yeah, so there was a little bit of trouble getting pregnant with him. I thought I was having a miscarriage again at the 12-week mark, but it ended up being implantation bleeding.
Okay.
After that experience, I told myself and my husband that if we tell anybody that we're pregnant, we're going to lose the baby. So for whatever reason that was in my mind.
Yeah.
So we didn't tell a soul until the 5 months. Like I was really kind of showing like
Yeah.
5.5 months. It was, we told people. But yeah, even then I felt you aren't guaranteed that baby.
Yeah.
I really did feel that throughout my whole pregnancy, with Donnie, my boy, and yeah, the birth and the pregnancy of Donnie, it was fabulous. Like
Mhm.
I had little to no symptoms and if I did, I was kind of like happy about it because I'm like I'm still pregnant.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I vividly remember like growing up and on the side of the road or something and like being so happy, like smiling and like just chugging water and smiling and being happy for the nausea. Like I was
Yeah.
very excited about it. So yeah, even then I feel like I kind of knew something. I don't know. I feel like I have some sort of intuition or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and also, that's so interesting because a lot of people don't have they just are completely taken aback and
Mm,
when they have a loss,
mm,
and because they don't like their innocence hasn't been taken away, but it sounds like you were very aware of it,
mhm,
especially since that first miscarriage, and then just sounds like you also had a feeling about things too.
mhm,
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so then you tried to get pregnant with Polly.
mhm.
Was that planned? Was that something like, "Yep, we're gonna just try and one after the other" type of a thing?
I felt almost like addicted. I was like, oh my gosh, like I love pregnancy. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
birth.
Y
After my son's birth, it was incredible. Like I had the picture perfect birth.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no issues with it at all.
Mhm.
He like I don't know, it was just fabulous. Like we did the whole baby mom dance during the birth. I had no pain medication. I actually was laughing during most of
Oh my
the
goodness.
contractions. I would think I was at 7 centimeters and I was still laughing and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
I was just so excited to get to experience the experience and like it almost felt like, wow, this is just amazing. And then when baby came, he was like the worst sleeper there ever could be. I think like the sleep trainers were like, he's untrainable. Like which I was like, whatever,
Mm,
because like this is what I signed up for. I'm like,
yeah.
we both of Kevin and I were just always so cool about like sleep. It was something that hit me like I've never been hit before. But I'm like, after doing Donnie and all that for like, a year or whatever, I can totally do this like
Yeah.
again,
You get
right?
so
So
empowered, right? Just like,
that's
okay,
exactly what it is.
okay, we can do this.
Yes. And I was thinking in my head too, if we try and do this later when like, my back hurts or like I'm not as agile, like I don't know, I don't know if I could do it. Like lack of sleep, sleep deprivation is like torture. And I would say like until Polly was born, actually, Donnie was up throughout the night every 2 hours.
Oh, oh, oh,
Hmm.
yeah. That is
And he woke
so
up
hard.
for the day at 4 a.m.
Oh,
every day. Every day. I know. It's crazy when I talk about it to people, but I was kind of like, I
oh
can
my
do
God.
anything after this child. And he was the perfect little guy, but
Yeah.
he just had no sleep. He could care less about sleeping. Like it was fine for
It
him.
sounds like he's a farmer at heart.
And it's funny because like I have a lot of energy on little to no sleep.
Uh-huh.
So I'm kind of like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree
Yeah, I was gonna say
assessment.
he's your son.
Yeah. But yeah, so with getting pregnant again, Donnie was like 6 months old, and I was like, I want to be pregnant again. I want another baby. I want to do this again. I want Donnie to have a brother or sister so badly. And Kevin was like, I'm 100% game. This is our phase of like parenthood right
We
now.
should
Like
do it. Yeah.
just extend it. Just make it a big long
Mm-hmm.
parenthood thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we had no trouble getting pregnant with Polly.
Okay.
I actually didn't get a period. Like I didn't like seem to ovulate.
Right. Because you're probably breastfeeding, or I mean, it just takes a while for your body to kind of get back to normal after giving birth. And so you really just went straight into and you were pregnant.
Yep, I was like, oh, I'm feeling different. And I took the pregnancy test, and we were like actively trying
Okay.
when Donnie turned 6 months. But I think he was 7 months when I got pregnant with Polly.
Oh my
7 months old. Yeah.
gosh. Oh.
So they're supposed to be 16 months apart.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, so that's how we got pregnant with Polly.
that's so fun. And did you tell your family members? Were they, I mean, it sounds like you guys were definitely planning on having a family. Like that was everybody
Mhm.
knew that family was coming. You guys were gonna have a family. So, did you end up telling family members after you got pregnant with Polly?
Yeah, so we told my mom first. I think the day that we took the pregnancy test, I thought, gosh, I'm about to, because I was the supervisor at that preschool that I talked about.
Yes.
And now I'm kind of like an educator there, but I was the supervisor. And like I had to have a maternity leave, right? Again. So I was like coming back and then, 4 months later after I returned to work, I would be off. So I'm
Yes.
like, I gotta tell my mom, my
Yes.
boss. So we told her straight away. And actually, my mom and I have an amazing relationship. We work together every day. Um, we're partners. And then she was also there for Donnie's birth, my boy,
Oh, yeah.
which was fabulous, like to have her there and to experience it because she always said to me, you need to have get an epidural. It's there, take it, like whatever. Like she doesn't want to see her children in pain,
Yeah.
of course. So when she saw my birth with Donnie, she was sold on like
Just
the
do it
the
all natural.
yeah, she's like free birth, 100%. Like but yeah, so she was game for that again. And she was like, am I gonna be able to be in there? And I'm like, yes, we want you there. It was like, me, Kevin, and my mom through that
Yeah.
whole thing. And like we just have such a tight bond because of Donnie.
Yeah.
And so
How sweet.
we had to tell her first. And
Yeah.
yeah. And then afterwards we kind of trickled telling people, but we didn't make it a big thing. I don't have social medias at all. So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, that I think, kind of helped with that.
Yeah. Which is
And like,
kind of nice. There's something very sweet about just like, and we're pregnant and being able to call
Mhm.
somebody up or see them in person and yeah, not
Exactly.
do it on social. You're right. I mean, there's something really nice about doing it in person or
Yeah,
yeah.
only the people who I talk to on a daily basis or like, I feel really close to, yet we
Hmm.
don't talk all the time, they found out. So whoever they told, I was fine with that. And like, nobody else really knew. Yeah, I actually, going back to my miscarriage,
Hmm.
I saw a pregnancy announcement the day I found out it officially that it was a miscarriage. I saw a pregnancy announcement on Facebook and I deleted everything,
Yeah.
all social medias because
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's so triggering when you have a loss and then you have to face all the pregnancy and out. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It is. That's a difficult thing. So that was actually smart. And I think a lot of people are doing that too. So I think
Yeah. I
that's,
think, yeah, just even trying it out for yourself might see how like much you don't need it and how much, I don't know, it might help things, right?
yeah, how much peace you can have.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how did you feel for this particular pregnancy? Was it as easy and nice as Donnie's?
It was better. It was,
Oh,
which is crazy because I was like, I know what's coming. Like, this is second nature to me. I feel like I was pregnant throughout Donnie's whole life already. Like,
yeah.
just because I felt like I was just pregnant. And all the weird symptoms that happened, they happened. And I just kind of was getting on with my life. I had a toddler, which is a lot.
Toddlers are a
A
lot.
toddler, a toddler that didn't sleep
Yes,
as
exactly.
I also was taking care of all the little babies and all the
Yes.
children at the school every day. And my shift is I start this and I make my own shift up because it's really my mom's business. And
Yeah.
I find like, just because I'm the boss's daughter or whatever, I'm not gonna sit back and all that. And like actually, I feel like the opposite. Like I should be there from open to close. Like
Yeah.
I need to take this is my other baby
Yeah.
and I need to take care of that too. And I do fully like, throw myself into work and it doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like a calling. It
Yeah.
feels like yeah, a vocation. And
Mhm.
I've always felt that way. So yeah, my shift is like 7 a.m. to 4:45, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's right down the street.
Yeah.
Another thing that I forgot to mention was that my husband actually built the place. He completely gutted it and one portion tore the whole thing down, poured concrete, built the walls, roof. I helped with it too. Like it was a kind
How
of 3 year long project
Yeah.
until we opened. So it's really very important to me.
Yeah.
Um, and it means a lot to me. So yeah, I was working right up until Paulie was born. Same with
Mhm.
Donnie.
Mhm.
My pregnancy was blech, nothing. It was amazing. I
You're
thought,
one of those pregnancy unicorns that they
yes,
talk about.
yes. I felt like this is what my body was meant to do. Like I really truly felt like, yes, I was very lucky in a way to have
Mhm.
had those things, but I also feel like well, that's just what my body was meant to do, right?
Yeah.
I've always felt that way. And this is, coming off of my sister, my younger sister. She had her first baby before I had Donnie, and
Okay.
her pregnancy was horrible. Like
Oh.
she didn't do anything to prevent that.
Uh-huh.
Like she couldn't, and she was like throwing up every day.
Oh.
She was on heavy medication for it. Witnessed her first. Her birth was also like,
Really?
traumatic and
Oh.
it was hard. And, going off of that, seeing all that, I'm like, well, it can't be as worse. Like any
Yeah.
symptom that came up with me, I'm like, well, I'm not there.
Yeah.
So,
You're like,
well,
I
there's
saw my sister and that was rough to see
yeah,
that. And so,
yeah.
yeah.
But this pregnancy, it was a dream as well, and probably even better than Donnie's pregnancy.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that sounds lovely. I just like a little jealous. I'm like, I was so um what was your like prenatal care? Did you have an OBGYN? Did you have a midwife? What were your plans for just kind of checkups throughout the pregnancy itself?
So at the beginning of my pregnancy, I kind of stuck to my family doctor a
Mhm.
little bit.
Mhm.
He helped me with my miscarriage before Donnie,
Okay.
and he emotionally has always been there, like to support me because of that. And he is like literally at the end of our street.
Oh,
So it's
so
so
nice.
convenient. Yeah.
Yes.
So I kind of was with him for a little bit.
Mhm.
After I got like, the dating ultrasound complete, and I think it was like 12 weeks at the time that I switched over to my midwife.
Okay.
I had her for Donnie, and yeah, she was like a dream midwife for me. I didn't actually end up having her during Donnie's birth. I had two other random midwives I
Y-
never met before,
Yeah.
but I quickly realized it didn't matter to me for my birth. It didn't really matter who was in the room.
Yeah.
My eyes were closed basically the whole time, and I was just doing my hypnobirthing thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, if I get Jen, which is my midwife, for Paulie, if I get her, if I get some random person, I love this community of midwives,
Yeah.
so didn't really matter to me.
Okay.
But yeah, so she took on from 12 weeks, she took the rest on
Mhm.
for me, and she actually attended my birth as well.
Oh,
So
she did. Okay.
yeah,
So,
and there was a
yeah.
student there as well. And this is also a story about accepting students
Mm.
in into care for prenatal care. This particular student, Mariam is her name, and I'm so grateful that
Oh,
she was there, and she also got to experience the whole thing with me.
yeah.
And yeah, she was fabulous. So I'm so happy that she was there. But I'll get into that maybe when I
Yeah,
talk a little bit.
I was gonna say I agree because we gave birth at a teaching hospital and it is so important because if you don't get that chance as a student, then you're in like shock or you don't have maybe some of the tools that would be so helpful in a future scenario. So I think that I'm excited to hear more about what happened there. So
Mhm.
so you were under the care of Jan, your midwife for your pregnancy, and all of your checkups were looking good. You had a dating ultrasound. It looked like it kind of earlier on, I suspect, at 8, 9, 10 weeks or so.
Yep, I think it was 8 weeks.
Okay, and that looked okay. Everything looked fine. And when did that put your due date? I know the due dates are, they don't sometimes matter too much, but what was
Mhm.
your due date based off of that?
So it was January 21st, 2024.
Okay. So then you were going along. I know that midwives usually, I mean, you still do have to have like a around 20 weeks an anatomy scan of some sort just to make sure everything looks okay. Did you have that at a local hospital or did they have, because I know they sometimes have like portable ultrasound machines and a tech or something that comes around
Mhm.
too that can happen.
I did the same thing that I did with my boy, and I got it done at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was like a blood lab as well, I think I had to go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were able to take my blood, and I did the anatomy scan at like, an ultrasound hospital thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry if I worded that weird, but yeah, everything looked perfect.
Great.
Everything, yeah.
She's looking good. And did you find out if that she was a girl at that time?
No, and we didn't with my son either.
Okay.
It's just a personal
Yes.
choice.
Yes,
We
for
love
sure.
surprises. I know a lot of people don't like surprises. I do.
Yes.
I was secretly hoping for a girl. I
Yeah.
always thought, like, my husband and my son, he is a carbon copy of him. It's insane.
Uh,
Personality as well.
yeah.
And I I wanted a carbon copy as well. Um, but it didn't matter to me in the long run if it
Yeah.
was a boy or girl, it really didn't.
Okay. Because you guys like to be surprised, it sounds like, did you just have a running list of boy, girl names or just any names in general that you could use or have on the ready?
Yes, so we had some from when my son was born.
Mhm,
We kind
mhm.
of had some from then. But then with Polly, the way we kind of went about choosing her name was we had a few girl names, and Polly was actually number two on our list
Uh-huh.
of girl names. But I thought it was really special because one, when I was a child, my favorite thing to play with were Polly Pockets, and I
Oh,
would
yeah.
literally have them like everywhere throughout my
Yeah.
room, the house. I had two sisters, so we would just like, play together, Polly
Yeah,
Pockets.
completely.
And my uncle, who's actually like my god uncle, because we are Catholic,
Mhm.
he had loved like his name was Paul. So I was like, it would be so sweet to have like a girl named Polly.
Yeah.
Um, and it's spelled like Paul, Paulie.
Yeah.
So that we kind of at one point we kind of looked at each other and Kevin and I both said Polly at the same time.
Oh,
Um, when we were like when somebody asked what her name was. So
uh-huh.
yeah, even though she was our second choice for a name,
Yeah.
we just knew that
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 was
was her.
That would be
Yeah.
her name. Oh, that's so cool. I love the family tie and then also just kind of the nostalgia from your childhood too, because it's just that's so cute. Because yes, Polly Pockets was a big deal for me too.
That's kind of funny, but I do think like I think of like, a little Polly in your pocket and it's so
Yeah.
tiny and cute and yeah.
Love it. That's so cute. Okay,
Mhm.
so everything looks great on the anatomy scan. And you would just kind of I know that just after a certain point they would come in and start doing a little bit more frequent checkups and such. Any issues on those particular appointments? Anything of concern?
Well, the one thing that was concerning was I was like getting to the 41 week mark of
Okay.
pregnancy.
Yeah.
So my belief, um, I'm really conflicted on this belief too, even now,
Mm-hmm.
is that your body and your baby are made for each other and you made your baby, so your baby should be able to, come out of your body naturally. And that was my belief heading into the birth. So
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to wait till like the 43rd week. I could care less. I
Yeah.
wasn't struggling pregnant. I was super big
Yeah.
and I was like, rolling my stomach over out of bed to get up for my son, who was still like, oh, like, every 2 hours getting up
Yeah.
at night. But it was concerning. My midwives, gave me a list of things of why it's concerning to go past your 40-week mark.
Yeah.
And they would always be supportive of every decision that I wanted to make for my
Mm-hmm.
body. So, I did end up getting another ultrasound later, like at the 40, I think it was 41 weeks and 3 days. And I was past 41 weeks and I got an ultrasound at the hospital. And they're able to do measurements of the baby, but
Mm-hmm.
it's off by a pound and a half either which way,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like give or take a pound and a half. That's what I was told anyways. So they said, like measuring normal, head circumference measuring normal, normal as in like it's probably not at 41 weeks. Like it's probably the data's off, maybe.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But they urged me to get induced. They
Okay.
they really did. And I was kind of pissed off at that appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my language.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was pretty upset. I like, you know, my body is going to tell me when the baby's ready to come. And then to like a day and a half later, baby came, like, I started going into labor.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, so I kind of knew, even if I had gotten induced, I don't know what that would have changed.
Yeah.
But like, a day and a half wouldn't have changed how big baby was or
Hmm.
my, anything going
Yeah.
on with me too, right?
Okay. So you started going into labor a day and a half or later, and
Hmm.
just your body just started having contractions, or water broke, or what were the indications that you were starting to get into active labor?
Well, I went up in the night to go to the bathroom just to pee. And I looked at the time, 12 in the morning, 12 a.m. And it's so strange, but this birth, almost to the minute, went the exact same way as my son's birth went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's crazy. So at 12 a.m., I made a video of myself with my son
Uh-huh.
and I did it with Paulie as well. And I was like, I think I'm going into labor. I just went pee. It was the same thing. I had like weird contraction thing, like
Yeah.
definitely a contraction, not that bad at all. And was just like, okay, I'm gonna like wait it out. And everyone said with this birth, like especially even being at that like past, like almost overdue, right, Mark?
Yeah.
That I should be, expecting a quick one.
Okay.
And
Yes.
back to that like intuition thing, I really felt like this was going to be the almost the same as my son's or like long drawn out. That's what I was hoping for.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people say the opposite.
Uh-huh.
But judging with how it went with my son, I liked it to be drawn out. I loved the experience.
Yeah.
I hate being like somebody to say that to if you or anybody have had like, a traumatic birth. But it was like drawn out and I thought like the slower if the pain level would get like, a little bit bad worse. I don't
Yeah.
know how to
Yeah,
describe
just
it.
a little bit more gradually so that you could accustomize to the feelings. Yeah. But if it came on quickly, it really, yeah, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people when it's like, I was in labor and I gave birth in like 3 hours, and you're like, it was horrible just because it was so fast and your body didn't have time to like,
It's probably more intense.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas if you're, yeah, getting accustomed to the feeling each
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what happened. So I felt the need. I was like, I'm just gonna wait. Like, and
It's
this is what I did at home, like
yeah.
with Bonnie. I waited until 6 a.m. So from
Mhm.
12 to 6, like ongoing contractions.
Okay.
With Polly, I waited until 4 a.m. So I wanted to make sure I was like taking, advantage of time and of the easing into
Yeah.
the labor,
Mhm.
just in case something were to happen. Everyone was telling me, you're going to give birth in the car, like you, whatever,
Yeah.
So I woke up my husband. He was sleeping with my son in his bedroom
Yeah.
because we have a floor bed. And he was like kind of on the floor, kind of on the bed. I was like, he wasn't even getting up, like Kevin wasn't. I was like, like I tried to get his attention. He was like a rock sleeping. And it just so happened like Donnie ended up like sleeping through the night really
Oh,
uh, during the birth, which is he's never done that before ever.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
knew something was going on. He was trying to help us out, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but so we called my mother-in-law. We had planned for her to jump over and look after Donnie. Um, and then I called my mom and called my midwife, and we kind of went on to the midwifery center. So it's really like an office, and
Mhm.
then there's like a room where there's a bed and a like jacuzzi bath and a little toilet, and that's where the
Yeah.
birthing center. That's what the birthing center kind of looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Those
Yeah.
are the
So
basic
should
things you
I?
need, right?
Yeah, exactly. Should I just continue on and
Yeah, yeah, please keep
yeah,
going. I want to
okay.
hear what happened. So, and it's
Okay,
not very
so
far away from your house too, right? Like it's just
yeah,
right there.
Yeah, it was probably an 18-minute drive,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it was honestly like nothing really. And it was in the winter time, but
Mm-hmm.
the weekend before there was like a huge snowstorm.
Oh,
And
okay.
we were just so happy we missed that. And
Yeah.
it was kind of clear roads, and
Yeah.
we just drove casually listening to music. I really didn't feel like I was ready. I was kind of questioning if I was even going into labor.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew, but I kind of didn't at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Weird feeling. I bet a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, so I was thinking in my head, please do not be like a false thing going on. Like
Yeah.
I just because the pain level was really low. And yeah, I was just enjoying the experience once again. We kind of waited in the parking lot for a little bit. I made a video during that time of how
Mm-hmm.
like excited we were and the things that we were talking about was generally around like, how excited we were for the baby. And then we get in, my midwife Jen came first and then my mom. And I immediately told Jen I want her to be like the main midwife. I don't, just because I had the option between the student that I was working with and
Yeah.
her. And I just said, I don't know how things are going to go. Could you just be the main midwife? I don't know if it's going to be fast or what. I don't know.
Yeah.
So she was like, absolutely.
Okay.
And then I didn't originally want any cervical checks done. I barely got any with my son. I think I
Mm-hmm.
got one. But I was like, can you check just to make sure that this is real?
See where you're at. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I was at like 4.5, almost 5 centimeters. So she's like, yep, this is happening.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
was like, yay. The contractions were consistent, but very like, I hate to be the one to be a unicorn or whatever, but they were like almost painless.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt like it was a little cramp or something. And I was like kind of worried that, again, like, is this happening? I guess it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
But my doula came as well. So I did get a doula. I
Okay.
forgot to tell you that.
Yeah. Well, that tell
Um,
us, did you set that up beforehand and met with her a number of times, or how did that relationship start?
so as soon as I got pregnant with my son, my
Okay.
firstborn, I kind of looked at getting a midwife and I asked, around. And I think there was this girl, she did like massage therapy. And I was like, okay, that's amazing. So she was a doula and a massage therapist,
Oh,
so like both. And
yeah.
she was like, she would talk to me as a doula during my massages, and it was fabulous. And she and
Huh.
I just clicked so well. To this day, like she's one of my like closest people in my life.
Hmm.
Anyways, she obviously was a no-brainer for her to attend this
Yeah.
birth as well. And I did, prenatal massages with her throughout
Hmm.
the pregnancy, which actually that's one thing that I think people should do if they can, if it's available to them.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. They're like the best.
and honestly, like she most of the time was my epidural,
Mm-hmm.
during like the harder moments of the birth and during pregnancy, like the harder times of pregnancy, she reduced my swelling significantly, like she stuff like that. And even after the birth of my son, she came over and gave me a foot massage while I was like breastfeeding, and she was fabulous.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds good. I agree too. I think they
Yeah.
are wonderful and they just help you feel better. Yeah. They make you feel
Mhm.
better.
Yep. Exactly. So she came and she just is a vibe. Like if I could like for lack of a better term, she has like the like glowy lights going,
Mm,
twinkly lights and like
yep.
this little spinny ball thing. And like she has the music playlist that I didn't know I was gonna love. And so she just like comes in, everyone's kind of laughing immediately, and we're all just talking and just honestly, the room was buzzing.
Yeah.
It was like something amazing is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I carried on with my contractions. People left the room, people came in.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think Kevin got food at one point and came back, and I was like sitting there eating at one point, laughing. And Meanwhile, contractions are still coming on like every minute, really.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Kind of every 30 seconds at one point. And Laura, my doula, has been to so many births that
Hmm.
she is just like, and my birth too.
Yeah.
So she was really in tune with what's going on. She's like, she whispered, I remember, to one of my midwives, I think she's like in transition right now because the contractions were getting harder,
Hmm.
definitely more intense.
Hmm.
And I was like, because I would say like, oh my, that one, like, and I would be happy about it in
Yeah.
my mind. I kind of like during my hypnobirthing trance, I kind of like switched my thought about a contraction and thought the worse, the harder is the better.
Yeah.
So I would make myself happy when that was like it was really painful. I would be like, "Whoa, my gosh, yes, this is the one. Like this
Yeah.
is the one that's getting me my baby."
Yeah.
And I would say it out loud too.
Hmm.
I did a lot of humming, like I did a lot of like whistling, like
Hmm. Yeah.
and it worked magic for me. I don't know
Huh.
why.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I at that point she's like, "Get in the bath." So I went in the bath. I did the same thing with my son at
Hmm.
almost the same time. It was crazy. I got in the bath. She turned the jets on. The midwife like was still all the while checking for heartbeat. Heart rate was like perfect.
Okay.
The whole birth, the heart rate was perfect. And she would check very frequently. Almost every other contraction she would check.
Hmm.
They were very diligent with that. And that was the student actually doing that, Mariam. And yeah, and then I was like, I just want one more cervical check. I just want to make sure, like, I was honestly in denial. I felt like it wasn't happening, but I was like, I'm 41 weeks and like
Yeah.
5 days or something. It's happening. But anyways, she checked again and I was like 7, 8 centimeters.
Okay.
So I'm
Hmm.
definitely in that transition period. When I was 10 centimeters, I knew it. It was like I felt the biggest like stretch I've ever felt. And there's a video of me. My doula also took videos the whole time.
Oh, uh-huh.
So I watch them all the time actually, and it's very healing for me. I just remember the room buzzing and being so amazed. Like everyone was just giggling and like very quiet, very calm. My mom was like, giving me a like shoulder massage. And during when I was 10 centimeters, I was like in the bath standing up
Yeah.
and I'm just swaying. And I was like this actually. And
Uh-huh.
I felt like I watched that video and I'm just like in my heaven almost. Like I feel like I was thinking in my head, I'm the closest I've ever been to my baby right now. Like the baby's coming so soon. Like, and this is just amazing for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I watch that frequently, that video, because I looked so beautiful. Like I have this
Yeah.
huge stomach, and I'm like honestly just giving gratitude to the world. And, my heart was exploding, and it felt like I'm so happy I can be doing this again.
Yeah.
I remember vividly feeling those feelings. And then was came pushing. So immediately my body pushed on its own. It was like the natural ejection
Hmm.
that they talk about.
Hmm.
Same thing happened with my little guy. I actually, with my son, pushed for 4 hours straight. And it
Oh.
was I think every 10 seconds that I
Oh.
pushed. So with my son was very tired at one point and I was still happy and like in my mojo
Yeah.
mode, but I was like getting tired. And so I ended up pushing on my back, which like if you research and like, hypnobirthing and all that, that's kind of like the last
Yeah.
position that you
Hmm.
go to. But it worked for me and I was able to, push him and he came just fine. It did take 4 hours.
Yeah.
With Polly, my pushing only took 2 hours.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so we got into the pushing stage. You could see my whole body contracting and pushing
Oh.
out. It was insane and it
Yeah.
was so cool. And the pushing, as a lot of people might say, was actually very relieving for me.
Hmm.
No more contractions, more so just
Just, yep.
my body trying to get baby out. So she came down perfectly. It was constantly checking the heart rate. She was between 145 and 155 the whole entire birth, but also especially during the pushing stages when they usually get like the baby kind of gets a little bit like more stressed, I would say,
Yeah.
just because they're working more. And baby was like perfect heart rate the whole time. So I was
Yeah.
really content with that. I was in my mode and I kind of at one point was like, gosh, this is a lot harder than my son. Um,
Oh.
I did have a moment where I was like, this baby is harder to push down than my son was. And
Hmm.
I was still like very content. I remember there was the ring of fire as they talk about,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I was like lying there. They were like, don't push anymore, or if your body does, it's fine, but don't push, just wait. Like they were trying to protect my perineum, I
Yeah.
guess.
Hmm. Yep.
So they're like, just wait, Claire, and in the videos, I've watched them recently, to prepare for this, and just like the videos were like, we're all just laughing. Like my mom saw baby's hair. She had like such long and tons of hair,
Just,
black, like just like my son.
yeah.
But my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, it's like alfalfa." Like, do you remember that movie?
Yep. Just whoop right there.
Right there, it was like sticking right out. Um, and we were laughing. And then I said, like, I said out loud in the video as well. I said, is this the ring of fire? And someone was like, yeah, this is it. And I'm
Hmm.
like, gosh, I was like, it doesn't even feel like anything. It feels like a paper cut. And they're like, you are insane. Like, what is wrong with you? And so we were all laughing in that moment. Cut to like 10 seconds after that video was filmed,
Hmm.
the baby's head was delivered,
Hmm.
which I felt so much relief. And I was feeling, oh my gosh, I'm gonna meet my baby in 2 seconds because after my son's head was delivered, it was like a minute or two and he was out
Yeah.
and he was on me. So I was like getting ready to cry and feel all the feelings. The head was out, and immediately the midwife looked panicked and said, call the ambulance right now. And later I discovered that my midwife was panicked because her head was cockeyed. Paulie's head was kind of like
Just
cockeyed,
tilled.
and
Okay.
behind, like both hands were clearly behind, were in the canal.
Uh-huh.
And the shoulder looked like almost like it was way behind something, like my
Oh.
pelvic bone. So it was both shoulders actually. And even to shimmy one of the shoulders or do any of the like normal movements um, that you would to get the rest of the body out was almost impossible.
Oh.
So to, go back to that moment, she said, call the ambulance. And midwife Mariam went out and called. And at that point, my mom left the room, which shocked me because my mom, like, she is like the best. She would never like leave me in that situation. Knowing now why she left, I think she just was panicked herself because if the midwife was panicked, then she was, right?
Yes.
So my husband was still in my ear. He was behind me kind of the whole time. And he was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be okay, Claire. It's going to be okay.
Okay.
And I'm like, I said out loud, I don't think it's okay. And this whole time, like, it seemed like an hour. But in reality, the midwife explained it that, after a baby's head is delivered, you have about 6 to 8 minutes to get the rest of the body out. baby at that point is still breathing through the umbilical cord.
Yeah.
And once the head is out, the umbilical cord is pinched.
Oh,
And
yes.
that would, pinch
Yes.
oxygen from the baby. So a baby can be, quote unquote, without oxygen. This is coming from, the doctors and the midwives I've talked to now, for about 6 to 8 minutes before it gets dangerous.
Hmm.
So going back to that moment, baby head was out and she tried a million different maneuvers.
To,
She asked me to flip over onto all fours,
yeah.
which when you're like, still, I felt still pregnant. My belly was huge still.
Yeah.
It was the
Very,
last
very.
moment. So I was so tired.
Yeah.
And flipping back and forth, I think I did it like 3 times,
Yeah.
was extremely hard. And my husband, everyone, my doula, everyone was helping me. They were putting counter pressure on my pelvic bone as well, which hurt so badly. Somebody was putting their
It,
entire body weight
oh.
in a spot that the midwife directed them to.
Oh.
And it made it so I couldn't breathe or push very hard. I was pushing every time they were like, give it everything you have, Claire, everything you have. And I was pushing like, with everything I had. Like, there's no other way to describe that. And she cut episiotomy. She cut me. They had no choice at that point. That was
The,
the next thing.
yeah.
No anesthesia or freezing, by the way,
Yeah.
because
Because
obviously I wasn't
yeah.
medicated. And I honestly took that, at like a champ, and like, she cut other places as well, which was crazy, and still couldn't get her out. All that time that I'm describing was only 4 minutes. It took 4 minutes for the ambulance to arrive. So they arrived and the paramedics like immediately put me on this stretcher, whatever it is, and wheeled me out. With me, Jen is racing beside me,
Right.
yelling at me to push, like, keep pushing, Claire, keep pushing. And like, it was me, Jen, and Mariam in the ambulance. My husband couldn't come, and neither could my mom or doula.
Yeah.
And the paramedic was like holding my leg. I remember holding my leg at my ear.
Yeah.
It felt like a movie, looking up at all the lights moving.
Yeah.
They went so fast. My midwife fell in the ambulance. She stumbled backwards when they were turning and she completely fell over.
Oh no.
It was
Oh.
horrible. And
Yeah.
then Miriam, the student midwife, took over. And then my midwife came right back and trying different maneuvers, trying to get her out. Um, Nothing, like they tried to break her collarbone and my pelvic bone,
Yeah.
which was horrible.
Yeah.
The paramedics were super amazing because they let me turn over. I would be in the ambulance driving a crazy speed and flipping over from back to front, like over and over again. And I was actually like praying at that point. I think that's like the hardest part for me to say out loud is like, I was begging for like God, the universe, anything to just like save the baby, save me. I like, that was hard, to hear my shaky voice out loud. And I was
Yeah.
like all hoarse and like, how you are after you deliver a baby. It felt like horrible. I thought in my head, we're definitely going to get her out in the ambulance. Like, I definitely thought baby's coming in the ambulance. And on my way, like, no, no, she didn't come out. And I was stunned. I was being rolled into general lobby entrance and uncovered because nobody had time to do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw like a bunch of like people there just shocked that a baby's head and like my legs, I was on my
Legs.
back. Yeah, it was just like a sight. I don't know who had to see that, but they're probably traumatized as well. Um, we went right into the surgery, whatever room, I don't know what room. and obstetrician and midwife worked, and they just literally cut everywhere and without freezing, anesthesia, or anything. And that was the most painful part of
Oh,
both births combined. It's horrible and a horrible sight. And without my mom and without my husband or anybody that I really knew. And thank my midwife and I were somewhat close. As soon as they cut and they obviously broke, they ended up breaking her collarbone.
uh-huh.
She came out and it was like not that relieving, happy feeling I had. I saw her and she was like, covered in like blood, and
Yeah.
it was just horrible. She was whisked away to the next room. And all I was thinking about was like, what, like, is she okay? What is she? I didn't even know if she was a boy or girl. It was silent in there as everyone worked. They got me stitched up. I think they said I had 40 stitches in total.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And I mean, that is kind of like an average for like, episiotomy and all that I've learned, which is crazy that women go through that. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? And
But
then
then you didn't have any anesthesia either. Just
you
want to point
didn't,
that out.
yeah.
Right? You didn't have any
Yeah, I
um
didn't. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
okay.
know. I know.
I'm
And then
horrified.
it was honestly like a movie because I was just put on like it wasn't a bed.
It was just
There was a pillow on it, but it was like a surgery bed, like
yeah.
almost like
Yeah,
a
just a
metal
table.
bed. Yeah, a metal table. And I literally saw blood trickling
Oh
down like a movie. And then I got slapped by a nurse, and he slapped my face, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And I was shocked, but apparently I fainted and I was out for like 20 minutes.
Oh,
So they were just making sure that I was like still with it. And on the other side of things, in the ambulance, my chest was on fire. Like my heart was beating out of my chest. And I'm literally not even kidding. I feel like if I took a video of my chest, you would be able to fully
see.
see my heart coming out.
Oh god.
And in the ambulance as well, like she was still kicking and trying, like she was very much alive. Um, and her heartbeat, like, midwife was so diligent. The student was so diligent in checking it. And when the head came out, she was 155 beats per minute. And then it was kind of like a race after Polly was like whisked away to get me okay, because
Stable. Yeah.
I was my heart was beating 240
Oh,
and above,
oh god.
which was like so close to cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And I learned this afterwards, but I kind of knew in my head, like, my heart and my chest isn't working properly. It's not calming down. So they gave me medication. They like, stuck a whole bunch of stuff in me.
Mhm.
They sewed me back up as their hands were flying, which like I give all the credit to the OB that worked on me. Um, and my midwife was like, holding my hand, talking me through my breathing. She was so, so calm, which was so relieving to me.
Yeah.
And I needed her to be that way. So my midwife, Jen, was with me, and Mariam was with baby, and they were kind of communicating through the window
Okay.
that divided the
Yeah.
rooms. And I didn't know what was going on. I must have asked like 15 or 20 times, like, where is my baby? What is my baby? Is my baby okay? And my midwife said, like, Claire, you have to like, really think about yourself right now. You need to breathe. You need to take in the oxygen. Because I kept taking the
Oh,
oxygen
yeah.
mask off. I
Yeah.
was like, where is my baby?
Yeah.
And the next moment I kind of remember after that was I was wheeled into the recovery room, which was a beautiful, sheltered private room. And like, I waited there for a long time. The nurses like were checking up on my vitals constantly. And then finally my dad actually had come, and my husband was ahead of him, and my mom was behind my dad, and my husband's face, like, said it all. I knew that my baby was gone in that moment. And I've never seen him that way ever. And he's like honestly the most stoic person. So me seeing him that way was like, I'll never get that image out of my head. And the only way I knew that she was a girl was because my dad carried her in a pink blanket. And I just thought, God, like, why? And I got to hold her, but by that time she was cold. And after reiterating the story over and over with my whole team, they said it in total, she lost oxygen for 12 minutes. And it was like, it seemed like 3 hours
Yeah.
from being, from head being delivered till, baby came out and baby had, oxygen. It seemed like 3 hours. And it was only like in total 12 or I think
Oh,
they said 12 to 16 minutes. And then this is why I'm so thankful for this student, because she was so diligent in time. She had her watches on. She had like, her watch and her phone, and like constantly checking the
checking.
time and constantly marking the time. And it's so important to me, these little tiny details. So I am so thankful that she was able to capture all the
Yeah.
details. Um, yeah, so, you know, my dad like rushed over, I guess. From the other side, my husband, I wish he could tell his story. I think he might one day, but he and my mom were like, and my doula, all three of them, were racing behind the ambulance, not caring how fast they went. And my, mom and husband were worried about baby. They never imagined that anything would have been wrong with me.
Yeah.
But my doula thought in her head, as she told me, that there's probably a 50% chance that baby will survive. But now she's racing to the hospital for me because she doesn't know if I'm going to survive that. And I think when they got there, my husband was called in to look at baby, and they had resuscitated her. They had put, a tube in her chest. And I found out later it was one of my sister's best friends who was one of the nurses there. And she was like devastated when she saw Kevin. And Kevin was asked, we're going to give this 5 more minutes, and then we'll have to ask you if you want to call it or not, or have us keep going. And, he saw her little body, horrible for him. And as it like he did not want to make the decision on his own. He's like, "Where's Claire? Like, what's going on?" And so he asked my mom to be called in. And when they called her in, she just melted into Kevin, and they called it together. And it was just not the way we had planned 12 minutes ago. Not what we thought was going to happen 12 minutes ago, as we were literally laughing. And then to go from that to like a huge tragedy was just horrible.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Thank you. It honestly, yeah, I still think about it every day. It was 3 months ago, but I really do think about it every single day. All the moments I just mentioned, it goes through my mind. And I'm very like, it's so saddening because I love birth so much, and I still do. Um, and I love, what women's bodies can do, but children are a miracle because they're not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I saw her, I held her, I was able to hold her for a long, long time. They took pictures. The hospital had a photography team
Oh,
for dedicated to infant loss
oh, that's
or,
yeah.
shortly after birth loss,
Uh-huh.
and they were able to take beautiful, beautiful photos and edit and all that. And at the time, I was like, I don't want to be taking a picture right now, but I'm so glad I did. I cherish those pictures so much. It's all I have. The only thing I got to bring home. And just like if anything, I just feel like blessed to have the family that I have. I'm blessed to have the friends that I have. Every one of them came into the hospital. We were all in like a big crowd. It was like my in-laws, my parents, my grandparents, which I'm so lucky to still have them. And my sister came. My other sister lives in Ottawa. Like, in that moment, there wasn't enough time for her to get there. And I called my best friend who I had texted that I was going into labor. So she knew that the announcement was going to come soon. And she, when I say that, like, she's my best friend, I'd much rather call her one of my sisters. Um, our first babies, well, my first baby and her second baby were born 24 hours apart.
Oh,
We did our whole pregnancy
yeah.
together. So she was waiting patiently all day to hear. And when I called her, she was obviously in such a great mood, like, hi. And I was like, this is the worst phone call I'll ever have to make, I think. And I just told her that, we lost her and she was like screaming. I know that if the same thing happened to her, I'd feel the same. And I felt her pain as well. She came right away to the hospital. So it really felt like a whole like community of people for this baby and for me and for Kevin and for Donnie. My favorite part, what was supposed to be my favorite part, I was looking forward to the most was seeing my baby boy after and watching their interaction. And it was the worst moment of my life. Like watching my baby boy and looking at my blue baby girl. Him saying, he said, bye bye, baby.
Oh,
He just looked at her and said, bye bye, baby. Everyone was shocked. It's on video as well. My doula is amazing because she was still taking videos the whole
yeah.
time. She knew I'd want to look back at every moment and think we have video
Yeah.
footage. Like I am so happy about that. And yeah, he said, bye bye, baby. That was the first thing he said. Yeah, it was
Oh,
like, the worst moment of my life,
yeah.
that moment. Yeah,
Oh, man. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
thank you. Thank you for shedding tears about it and becoming emotional about it because I feel like, um, you know, it's still so relevant
Yeah.
to me. And when I
Yes.
see other people feeling the shock and the emotions behind the story, it's like it makes it more real. It's healing for me to
Well,
cry with somebody
yeah.
instead of just alone or with Kevin or whatever, right?
Just like how I just I'm just in shock. I'm so in shock for you because like just the way you were describing how joyful and expectant and everybody was just so um expectant of a wonderful result and to have something like this go in 12 minutes like you said just to be so it just a tragedy struck in 12 minutes like and that is oh that is just horrible. I just am so sad for your family and for you and for your son. I just think of my
Mhm.
daughter when she found out our son passed away. She just was devastated, and those little those little kids, they know.
Yeah.
They know.
And, like, we had routine like, I'm really big on routines with children at the younger ages, and, that's the hardest part for me. We had, like, these routines set in stone with him. He, like, walked by her room and went, "Shh," like, with his little finger and be secret, and he would kiss my tummy every morning. When he first saw my stomach afterwards, he kissed it, and he said, "Baby," and, like, he's the only one, like, not even my husband yet, to really see everything, like, that's going on with my stomach, and, like, you know, he still loves me so much, and he's been the biggest healer for me. We're just, like, pouring everything we have into him because and I'm sure you know how that would feel, because he's alive, like, he's here for us, and we're here for him, and he doesn't even know how, like, amazing he is to me. He has no idea. And if anything Polly gave to him, if his sister were to give him something, it was time. Because I was so pregnant and I was, like, just working so hard, and I was, like, tired, and um I would have been tired in the newborn stage, and I would have been, run off my feet again, and I'm not. I'm, like, really I've recovered amazingly, despite everything, and I've really, like, paying so much attention to everything he does and giving him everything, and, it's what she gave to him. Um, that's how I look at it. Anywho.
That's a sweet way of looking at it.
Mhm.
How what did the hospital, what did they say about, spending time with her? I know that you
Mm.
guys were able to take photographs, and I think that's amazing that they had a team of photographers that were doing that. And but what and so many people came, it seemed like, that were surrounding you and being with you and meeting her, which
Mm.
also I think is a huge honor to have family members meet your baby even though they're not going to be here. What did you guys do? How long were you able to be with her?
The hospital was truly amazing. They allowed allowed us to be there, for as long as we want, they said. They would have, like, been there for days for us if we wanted that. But I said, like, as soon as I'm feeling okay, like, I really want to go home. I know I'm not going to be bringing a baby home, but I just think the atmosphere of the hospital makes me so down. Like,
Yeah.
um, and I felt it as soon as I felt stepped in there. I've always felt that way about hospitals. It reminds me of death, really, and I did feel that way, and I wanted to spend as long as I could with her, and so they put her in, like, a cooling, incubator,
Yeah.
and they let we stayed for, like, the full 24 hours. It might have been a little bit more than that.
Mhm.
They wanted to make sure I was okay as well,
Yeah, for sure.
and they did urge, to stay longer because I was bleeding a lot more than
Oh,
I should be.
yeah.
So that was another thing. But, we ended up probably staying for, like, 30 hours with her,
Okay.
like, precious 30 hours,
Yeah.
and I knew, like, in my head, obviously, she's not there, but, like, just to feel her, like, the softest skin, memorizing her features, taking a million videos and pictures, and even though it was so hard, I didn't wanna be taking a picture of her like that. Um, just, like, how much she looked like my son when I really got to look at her, I was like, "Holy crap. This is like a baby that is exactly my son." Like, I just cannot believe it, and, she was, like, getting cold, and the fact that she was really limp and not moving, it
Yeah.
made me feel like I need to go. I'm not gonna stay any longer than that. That was probably like one of the harder things is walking away from her. Um, Kevin and I were like shadows. We weren't people right there. Something that I didn't know that though is the morning after we woke up and we looked to our right, and there's a tiny little window in the building that the room that we were in, and it was the pinkest sky I have ever seen in my life. I I can't make that up. Like it was so pink. And ever since Polly's passing, there has been a pink sky either at night or in the morning
Huh.
every single day. And I take a picture every single time because at one day I'm gonna like have an album of this. Either it's that we didn't notice a pink sky before, or this actually is happening.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, but we went to Florida. We took a trip and went to Florida for a week with my family, and this was right after Polly, just an escape in a way.
Yes.
And there was pink skies every single
Mm.
day there. It's like she followed us there, and I can't get that sight out of my mind. And my sister, who I said was in Ottawa, the day that it happened, she looked out into the sky. She was going for a walk with her dog just to get her mind off of everything. She was so upset she couldn't be there. She stepped out of her house and the whole sky was like reddish pink that she's never seen. Like, you know how when you put two fists up to the sky,
Mm.
like in your vision, in your sight,
Mm.
that was how like much sky was that color. She noted it, and then I told her about the hospital and every day since, and we both like were like shocked.
Oh, I love those little nods from our kids, I think.
Yeah,
Little signs, those little like, "Hey."
yes, that I know, and I really like not one to like believe in signs, but I am very suggestible in a way. Um, but I definitely now I truly believe that that was her and that's her. It's still pink, like it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that's that's cool.
Every time I'll think of her if I see a pink sky.
I think that's beautiful. Claire, well, I always like to ask these things, because we don't get to talk about these kind of little details. So, how big was she? Like, how much did she weigh? How tall was she?
Yes. Okay. Geez, why do I forget how tall she was? That seems like a really bad mom move.
No,
But
no.
not on the top of my head, but she was a whopping 10 pounds exactly.
She
Like,
was 10 pounds. Woo. Yeah.
yeah, 9.15, and they rounded up.
Okay.
So 10 pounds, like crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, in my head, I thought, that's probably why it was harder coming down.
Mhm.
Or just felt like, this is the farthest I've ever stretched in my life in a way. She did come down faster than my son did,
Oh, uh-huh.
but yeah, and my son was only 7'7" and she was 10 pounds.
10
Yeah.
pounds. She's big. She's a big
Yeah,
one.
she was like a presence,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And d did you announce to everybody at that time that her name was Polly? Like, and, when everybody started to come in, or did Kevin tell everybody like, "Oh, her name's Polly," when
Mhm.
unfortunately, when they were in with the doctors and
Mhm. Yeah, so that kind of took me out of the moment, and this is why I like not knowing the gender because you also then don't exactly know what the name is going to be.
yeah. Mhm.
And if your birth was traumatic or if something like this happens or something happened, it brings happiness. It seems weird to say that, but it takes you out of the moment for a second and you're like, "Oh, right, like I have to name this baby." Like, and that was exciting to me because that's always been an exciting part for me is naming the baby.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the doctor came in and all of our family was there at this point, and Kevin was holding her, and the doctor said, "Oh, what's her name?" And Kevin and I just looked at each other and I was like, "Right, like we have to name her." And we both just looked at each other and said Polly at the same time. Polly Fiona. And yeah, that's my mother. That's my uncle's name. And then my mother's name is Fiona.
Yeah.
So my mom just started crying
Yeah.
even more than she already was.
Yeah. How fun to it great that the doctor was like, "What's her name?" And then just being able to say that with all your family there. I think that's beautiful. That's
Mhm,
a nice time to at least to remember that she's part of the
mhm.
family and hailing to your uncle and to your mom. I think that's lovely.
Yeah. And they all loved the name. They really did. And I'm sad about it that it can be used, but when as a preschool teacher watching children write their names or say their names or say each other's names, it's such a beautiful moment for me. And hearing Donnie say it, you know, that's really hard for me. And like seeing it written out, I'm like, gosh, it was such a beautiful name. Like, I'm so upset that it is used like this in an obituary, instead of a normal setting.
Yeah.
Someone signing their name, Polly, it's yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, names like you, I just love them and I love hearing about the history of them and,
Yeah.
how they come to be. And that's a hard one for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Names are so, so important.
Mhm,
So, so you spent some time with her, and I know during hospital stays and after losing a baby, they usually bombard you with paperwork. And I suspect a social worker or somebody came in to talk to you about what you planned on doing with Polly
mhm.
after you guys had left. Did you guys have discussions about that, and how did that go, or did you have somebody help you with that so you wouldn't have to worry about or have to deal with that necessarily?
So one of the nurses that kind of took care of me during my stay at the hospital, she kind of told me the options. And right away in my mind, like it was a sucker punch for me for sure to hear the words like, "Are you looking at a burial?" Like whatever. Because I had never planned a funeral. I'm super young, I feel still,
Mhm.
and I mean I'm 28 and I feel like actually I'm 29 now, but um I feel like it's one of those things like not many 29-year-olds are planning their daughter's wedding or daughter's funeral, right?
Yeah.
So I said, oh my gosh, I can't even picture my little girl in the ground. Everyone's personal preference, right? Like I would like to visit her. I get, that, but in my head, I'm like cremation because I don't even want a funeral, let alone to watch her go down in the ground and to be alone. Because with like this kind of stuff, as I've realized and I've like figured out because of this, unfortunately, like you have to have like certain people with like, if I'm going to be burying my daughter, I'll have to be buried beside my daughter later in life. And she would be alone until then. And we would have to buy like this is how they described it to me, which is just the logistics of it all. Like, please, somebody else, like a fairy, come in and do it all for me because
It's
it is,
horrible.
yeah, it's
It
horrible. It's probably the worst part.
yeah.
we have to pay $1,500, I guess, and 5,000 per, I don't know if it's like 5,000 per grave or something. So on top of that, um, to, have three together. So like
Yeah.
if it's me, Kevin, and Polly, and then if
Yeah.
we want Donnie later, he
Yeah.
can do his own thing or whatever. I'm just like, this is ridiculous.
You're like,
I'm not
I'm
planning my husband's burial either, or
yeah,
myself.
exactly. Isn't that just the most it feels so morbid where you're just like, I'm buying what am I doing? You want me to what?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, the next day, my father-in-law is like just like Kevin. He's a farmer, he's a worker. He built her a coffin in the most beautiful like piece of wood that you've ever seen with a cross on it as well. Like he that night, I guess they're really on it because I was not thinking about this at all. I'm like, a year from now, we can have a funeral and whatever. Like, but right now, like, this was the next day. And he's like, I built this
Oh my
coffin.
gosh.
And I'm like, it's almost comical. Like, what? That's what you're thinking of? But I guess, like, honestly, it paid off because I didn't have to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He did it for me and Kevin. And so I had already decided cremation in my mind. I
Yeah.
had said, no, we're going to cremate her. We can do whatever we want with the ashes. We can put it in a necklace or we can have an urn
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
And Kevin just said whatever you want because, like, sometimes, like, he's like, he always gives up big decisions to me. Just a typical. But yeah. So I was like, cremation for sure. I had to pick out a dress for her that she was to be burned in,
Mhm.
like another horrifying
Yeah.
moment. And they burnt the coffin as well with her. So it was kind of like just a symbol that he worked on making something for our angel. And she was like, he always put it like she's going out in a, like, in the most classy way and like whatever. But I do think I'm grateful for that now.
Yeah.
In the moment, I was like, I couldn't care less. I don't want to be doing this right now.
Yeah.
And then we proceeded to plan the funeral for, she was born on the Saturday and we planned it for the next Saturday.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if any other pregnant person, actually, all pregnant people can probably relate, but like after a week postpartum, like if you're trying to find a dress
Oh.
that's going to match, like I had a whole bunch of sweatsuits ready for my postpartum body. Now I'm searching for a dress for this new body that I have. Like, I'm not pregnant anymore, so I have all these pregnancy dresses, and then I have, like zero postpartum dresses.
Yep.
Like, I wasn't planning on going anywhere in February.
Yeah.
Um, so that was hard. I broke down in the store, in the dress store with my mom. She came with me. That was hard.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, we had her funeral and I actually spoke at it.
You did.
Yeah, a lot of the times I see or I go to a funeral and I always wonder, like I look at these poor people who have just lost someone. I always wonder what they're thinking or I always just guess and assume that, it's just extremely hard and whatever I think. And then I get on with my life. But I wanted to make, my daughter proud and I wanted to be really strong for her. And I wanted to be the one to, share her. I only knew her because she was inside me for like 10 months. But you know, there was little things that I knew about her, like what kind of music she liked and what kind of voices she liked and who she loved.
Yeah.
Um, there was a whole bunch of things I wanted to say about her, and I wanted people to walk away from the funeral with like the thought that I was really strong and I had so much love in my heart to give. And I wanted them to know that this is not just, something you hear about and whatever. It's like huge for me in my life and I need support. And I wanted to make a big statement. And I think it being a small town, there was almost, I think there was like 250 people at the funeral,
Okay.
like very significant funeral. And it was amazing to me that they all, like, this small town community kind of banded together for Kevin and I. And
Yeah.
they were all shocked when I came up. And a lot of them, I'm even still hearing today, have like asked me for the eulogy that I said, the, the speech
Yeah.
that I made. They're all like, very interested in it. And it's helped with my healing to have done that. It really has. And I will never regret that.
That's great and amazing. I think that and you're right. I love the fact that you were able to talk about what you knew about her. And like you said, little things. And you're right. There's little things that you know because you hung out with her for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yes, exactly.
And how sweet that is to share it with others. Because once again, you don't realize how much you want to share those things and how important that is for others to know, what
Hmm.
kind of music she liked and who she liked
Yeah.
to hear from.
Yep.
That is beautiful and so cool that your community came out to support you. Like
Hmm.
how amazing that is. Like truly,
That was the
truly.
most amazing part. Yeah.
I'm curious with your funeral, did you I'm assuming did you just invite everybody or it was kind of just like or did everybody just come out and just know you guys and want to support you?
I think it was pretty low key. I think one of my sister-in-laws shared it on Facebook, and she's really popular in town. So I would suspect that they kind of all, like, so many people got the message after
Yeah.
she posted it.
Yeah, they want
Um,
to yeah, okay.
yeah.
That's
And
wonderful.
they kind of knew us. I mean, I've kind of made a name for myself in town,
Just
being like
to yeah.
holding the only preschool in town.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and Kevin, he was a popular guy in high school, and growing up, his family was popular around
Mhm.
town, so everyone knew them. And
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think for a lot of people, they felt really close to the situation,
yeah.
especially at the preschool, because the parents would see me every day,
Right. Right.
growing my belly every day, and taking care of their children every day. And so a lot of the parents showed up for me as well, in various ways.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful.
What great support. What wonderful support.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing Polly's story. I like what a story. I cannot believe that this has happened and I'm just so sorry. I'm also just so impressed with you because of the fact it really we are recording this like I said in May of the same year that
Yeah.
you lost Polly and that is not very long ago. And if I was in your shoes, it would take me a little bit longer to tell her story just because sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So thank you so much for being willing to tell and talk about her and share with her to all of us. And I feel like she's lucky to have you as a mom and Donnie's lucky to have you as a mom and to be so strong for them. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on. And I one last thing I like to ask is there anything you would like to say about Polly that you'd like to share? The last anything that we may have missed or anything that you remember that you'd like to share with us?
I think she was beautiful on the inside and the outside. I, to this day want to hold her all the time and to be with her. And like, I wasn't like 100% like, oh, there's a heaven, and I really truly believe there is. I have to, and I do feel like there is going to be a moment where we meet again. And I think she was, too perfect for this world. And I love her so much. And I'm so glad to be the one to have her memory if you, because, you know, I'm the only one who really knows her. And I'm going to cherish that for the rest of my life.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again so much, Claire.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I know. Like, oh,
Oh, thank you for sharing your emotions with me as well too. It's been awesome to share.
oh,
I
yeah, it is always so it's a privilege to mourn with other people, to cry with them because
mhm,
yeah, it's part of our humanity, right?
and knowing your story as well, I feel like it's so comforting to know. I hate to say like anything comforts me during this time, but it really um it's comforting to know that this happens to other people. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
no loss is insignificant, or you know, lesser than the other. I do feel like everyone goes through things and experiences things completely uniquely. But yeah, I'm so grateful to, you know, have a similar situation as some, you know, someone like yourself, and you know, be able to share that together.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel so exactly the same. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.